Hey, so this is a video response to Anita Sarkeesian's Damsel in Distress Part 2. In her, I guess, Tropes versus Women, her new series, where she pretty much, what she says is that the trope of, or the plot device that you have a damsel in distress is disempowering to women. So you'll have some random gameplay in the background, maybe Borderlands 2, because the point she brought up about Borderlands 2 just didn't make much sense to me. So, um, yeah. So I just want to say a couple things just bring up a couple things that I didn't exactly agree with. Um, First of all, most gamers are males, so the fact that most protagonists in games are males, I mean, that's probably because most gamers are males, and furthermore, most game developers are males. I actually don't know of a single female game developer. Like, there are a few male game developers. Like, I don't know everybody's names behind the scenes. I'm not, a game developer myself or anything, but I can name off a few male game developers. I don't even know of a single female game developer. It's like one of the ones that actually designs or, well, yeah, designs, things in the game. I don't know of any. So that, goes to show how many, like, what the ratio is of male to female when it comes to game developers. There are a lot of, oh, I do know one female game developer. This is Laura Shigihara. And and it's not like she's a part of like a AAA studio or anything. Like, she's not an EA, working on the next big game. Um, oh, she actually also did the music for Plants vs Zombies, and I love the music in that game. So check out her channel. Maybe I'll put up an invitation or a link in the description. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Um, so that kind of explains to me anyway why in video games you have a lot of male protagonists, and she seems to see that as a bad thing. Um, and it's just not. It's just males have the majority when it comes to the people who are actually going to be holding the game controller, and therefore it's going to be the males who are the protagonists. I mean, why would a male want to be represented by a female character? Now, on the other hand, maybe you could give the player a choice of whether you want to play as a male character or a female character, but then that complicates story, and you have to have sort of a, unless you want to go through all the work of writing two completely different stories for if you chose to be a male or a female, or complicating it to where, or I was going to say complicating it because that might not be so complicated to some people, but where you can choose not only your sex but your orientation, so that you could be a male going after another male or a female going after another female. Um, yeah, even that would that would cause problems for some people. You can't really make everybody happy with a lot of things. We understand that though. So the thing is, when it comes to like the female being like in distress and she can't do anything to get herself out, like how uninteresting would it really be for, like, if you have say you have to, like, your goal is to save someone, how uninteresting would it be if she was just strong enough to save herself? Where would the game just ends right there? Like, there's no story there. You can't really build a story around that. If you're saving the one that you love, like not a family member or anything, but if it's like your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, like if that's the story, then how uninteresting would it be for her to be able to just save herself? Like, what else could you possibly do with a story like that? it's a popular, and I guess it is kind of overused, but you know, the damsel in distress thing, it doesn't really, I don't think, I'm not a woman myself, so I couldn't tell you. And apparently, Anita is really concerned about this because she finds it really offensive, but I don't think she's taking it in the right like context. Like I don't think when a game designer, oh she even says this herself, when the game designer is designing a game, she doesn't or he doesn't I said he doesn't uh like actively make it so haha we're gonna put these women in refrigerators. Like you know, she brought up the point of one of the tropes of a woman in a refrigerator, and that's where apparently in a Green Lantern comic, what they did was they killed his wife and just stuffed her in the refrigerator. So the next trope that she brings up is the woman in the refrigerator, where um, the girl's already been killed and they're going out for revenge. Um, so the way she sees that is like women are just used as items to, you know, drive the story, as like objects to drive the story and don't have any like it. And the thing about that is it's not necessarily just because it's not because they're women. It's because the protagonist is male, and what would strike a nerve more in a male character than like killing his wife or killing his mother or his daughter or even his son. Like I mean, let's say a lot of times in games you don't have a male protagonist trying to save or rescue his son. A lot of times, if he has a son, let's say the son is well, the son would be the protagonist, and you have like your father, and you're like his prodigy, or um, you know, he's training you or whatever to you know do what he's doing. Either way, though, the fact remains that it's like it's not like a new thing that they're bringing about in video games. Like in the real world, um, the victims are more likely to be women, and I'm kind of stealing this from TJ, but it's true. Um, the victims are more likely to be women, so like that's reflecting in video games. It's not like because of video games. Like video games is kind of a new media, so it's not like because of video games. Video games went back to the past and changed things so that women are the ones who are being victimized. It's always been a thing, and it's like you know, sad to say, but yeah, it's always been that way, and it's not like uh, changing that in video games is going to change real life. And I think, in fact, like if you flip it the opposite way, it just wouldn't make sense. Let's say, for example, next year, all games, not all games, but let's say next year, half of every game that would have a male protagonist and a female, um, like damsel in distress or whatever. Let's say every game that was gonna be like that changed sides, and you have female protagonists trying to save men. I just I couldn't tell you. Oh, and let's not forget that you can't have the females, you know, dressed a certain way. They have to be all looking decent and covered up, etc., with you know, like no, you can't show any skin, regardless of how tough battle gets. You know, sometimes in these games, like a dude will just like either not be wearing a shirt or you know a shirt just like tears off about. No, you can't have none of that because that's misogynistic. Um, like I'm kind of just making fun of it at this point. But if games flipped around like that, then those games would be the games that people don't buy as much. or guys don't buy as much, and that would be because they're guys, and being guys, they wanna be a guy. Like how does that like does that not make sense? Is it I don't know. It seems to me like um it seems to TJ too apparently that it's just looking for it in certain games. Like she brought up Duke Nukem as a game that uses women like that objectifies women. It's Duke freaking Nukem. Like you don't get much more outrageous than that. And to use Duke Nukem as an example, as like a serious example, it's like, come on. Like it's Duke Nukem. Like we get that, you probably shouldn't act like Duke freaking Nukem. Oh man. But the whole thing with she mentioned that in violent games where the main gameplay is violence, and you have to save um, your damsel in distress or whatever. You do it by means of violence because the main damn what's the word the main game mechanic involves violence. It's a fighting game, a hack and slash or a shooting game or whatever. So you end up having to save them by means of violence, which is, you get it. Violence in video games is the thing. Um, violence is fun. Violence is entertaining. So I think she means to. I don't know how do you fix that. Either you don't have any, which is just I don't want to say impossible, but like that's not just gonna turn around. You're not just gonna get game developers to not make games uh, where you're a male protagonist and you are fighting to get back your wife or your daughter or your wife and your daughter. um, it's not going to turn into a bunch of games where it's never going to be straight up half and half with female protagonists and male protagonists unless the gamers go half and half and it turns into half female protagonists and half male protagonists. I mean, half female gamers and half male gamers. It's, just be real. There's not as many core gamers that are female as there are males. It's maybe 70-30. Like that's really pushing it. I'd say it's like 90-10. Otherwise, there's the chicks who play like the what you would call a hardcore game, and casual games otherwise. It's just I guess it's just what they prefer. Not that they're not as good at them. I mean, if they're not, then who's to say? It's not. I don't know if it's because they're girls or because they're. I don't know what it is. They're not as into it or whatever. Men and women are different. So yeah, it's getting to around 15 minutes. So I'm gonna wrap up. Um. So yeah, basically, I don't think there's anything. Don't want to use this word incorrectly, but I don't think there's anything inherently sexist about video games or even video games that use the damsel in distress um, uh, plot thing. I'm like losing my words, but it's not necessarily that uh, it's that gamers are sexist or game developers are sexist or the writers are sexist. I think it's just because the the players are male and you have a male protagonist because the players are male. So the like loved ones of the player, like their wife or their girlfriend, generally is going to be female. You can't. Then there's not much you can do to change that. Boys like girls, so you put girls in the games. It's not to disempower women or anything, and I don't think it sends that message either because, like, when a guy plays a game, they're not playing to. They're not like the whole time they're playing. They're not playing. They're not thinking about I gotta save this girl. They're shooting monsters or slashing monsters, defeating giant bosses, killing off the asshole who's doing all this violence against women stuff because they're assholes. And kick that asshole's ass. So, anyway, that's just my idea of the whole thing. It's kind of frustrating to see that this video doesn't have well, it does have a ratings bar. I just noticed that. No, no, it doesn't. No ratings, no comments, no there's not even statistics on the video if I remember right. And it's like it's not an open discussion. If it's not an open discussion, what the hell's the point of putting the video up where this is one of those videos where it should be a discussion. But let me not I don't think I forgot that there are trolls all over the internet. That's just the internet. That's what you get, but but that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be people who have enlightening ideas or actual things to say. It kind of shows me that she thinks that it's that like her way of thinking is the right way and everyone else can just buzz off, right? Because all she just gets views and there's no discussion, there's no rating. It it, it kind of it makes it seem almost as if she's scared. I don't want to make that assumption, but that's what it seems like. So yeah, it's 17 minutes. Oh gosh, I need to stop rambling. Okay, bye, bye.